A homeless child asks Elon Musk about dreams. His response leaves the world speechless. The night was cold, unforgiving. A thick layer of fog blanketed the city streets, muffling the sound of distant car horns and hurried footsteps of strangers too busy to notice the small figure curled up on the sidewalk. 12-year-old Liam Carter sat against the rusted metal of a dumpster in a dimly lit alleyway. His oversized hoodie, once a bright blue, was now a faded, tattered mess, barely shielding him from the biting wind. His jeans were torn at the knees, caked with dirt, and his shoes had holes so wide that his frostbitten toes peeked through. His stomach growled, an all-too-familiar reminder of the hunger that had become his constant companion. He wrapped his arms around himself, shivering, trying to forget the last meal he had, half a sandwich salvaged from a trash bin outside a coffee shop 2 days ago. Liam had nothing. No home, no family, no future. His mother had died when he was 8. His father, once a hard-working mechanic, had spiraled into alcoholism, losing his job, their apartment, and eventually his life. Since then, Liam had been on his own, navigating the cruel streets of Los Angeles. Yet, even in his despair, he held on to one thing, an old, crumpled notebook. It was the only thing he had left from his mother, a gift she had given him on his 5th birthday. She used to tell him, "One day, you'll write your own future in here." Now, the pages were filled with dreams, sketches of rockets, ideas for inventions, and scribbled notes about the universe. He had always been fascinated by space, by technology, by the impossible. But those were just fantasies now. The real world was cruel. His fingers trembled as he flipped through the pages, stopping at a drawing of a rocket with messy, childlike handwriting beneath it. "One day I'll go to space." Liam let out a hollow laugh, his breath visible in the freezing air. Who was he kidding? Dreams weren't meant for kids like him. A sudden gust of wind blew a page loose, and it fluttered down the sidewalk. Liam scrambled to catch it, his heart pounding as he chased after it. His last connection to a life that once held hope. Just as the page landed near the curb, a sleek black Tesla rolled to a stop in front of him. Liam didn't even look up. He grabbed the paper quickly and turned to retreat back into the shadows. But then a deep voice called out, "What's that you got there?" Liam froze. Slowly he turned. The car door opened and a tall figure stepped out, silhouetted against the city lights. Elon Musk. Liam clutched the worn-out page against his chest, his heart pounding. He had spent years being invisible to the world, just another kid lost in the chaos of the streets. But now, someone had noticed him, and not just anyone. He hesitated before looking up. The man standing in front of him was instantly recognizable. Elon Musk, the billionaire, the innovator, the man whose name was etched across the sky in rockets and electric cars. But right now, he wasn't standing on a stage, making bold promises about the future. He wasn't surrounded by cameras or reporters. He was just there, in front of a homeless kid, wearing a simple black t-shirt and jeans, his hands tucked into his pockets. His expression was unreadable, not pitying, not condescending, just curious. Liam swallowed hard. He had met plenty of rich men before, the kind who walked past him outside fancy restaurants, pretending not to see him. He knew how this worked. They'd give a forced smile, maybe toss a few dollars his way. Then they'd disappear, forgetting he ever existed. But Elon wasn't walking away. Instead, he nodded toward the crumpled paper in Liam's grip. "What's that?" Liam hesitated. His fingers curled around the page as if shielding it. "It's nothing." Elon raised an eyebrow. "Didn't seem like nothing a second ago. You ran after it like it was the most important thing in the world." Liam shifted uncomfortably. He didn't like talking to strangers, especially ones who could probably buy an entire city block without thinking twice. But there was something different about the way Elon spoke. It wasn't forced. It wasn't fake. Still, Liam wasn't about to pour his heart out to a billionaire. "It's just a stupid drawing," he muttered, shoving the paper back into his notebook. Elon's gaze lingered for a moment before he crouched down to Liam's level. "Can I see it?" Liam hesitated again. No one had ever cared about his drawings before. But for some reason, he slowly unfolded the page and held it out. Elon took it carefully, studying the shaky pencil lines. The sketch wasn't perfect, just a rough outline of a rocket surrounded by stars. Below it, in faded ink, were the words, "One day I'll go to space." For a moment, Elon didn't say anything. Then a small smile touched his lips. "You like rockets?" Liam shrugged. "I used to." Elon glanced up. "What changed?" Liam let out a bitter laugh. "Reality." He gestured around them. "I mean, look at me. Do I look like someone who's going to space?" Elon didn't answer right away. He studied Liam, his expression unreadable again. Then he said something that caught Liam off guard. "I used to feel the same way." Liam frowned. "What?" Elon leaned back slightly, still holding the drawing. "I wasn't born rich, you know. I had to fight for everything. When I was a kid, I felt like an outsider. I had big ideas, but no one believed in me. They laughed at me, said I was crazy." Liam narrowed his eyes. "Yeah, but you still made it." Elon nodded. "I did, but not because it was easy. Because I refused to let go of my dreams." He tapped the drawing gently. "You had a dream once. What happened?" Liam's throat tightened. He wanted to say that dreams didn't matter when you were starving. That dreams didn't keep you warm at night. That dreams were for kids with parents and homes and futures. But he couldn't bring himself to say it. Instead, he just shook his head. "Dreams don't come true for kids like me." Elon studied him for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He folded the drawing carefully and handed it back. "You're wrong," he said, "and I'm going to prove it." Liam's fingers tightened around the paper. He stared at Elon, confused. What did he mean by that? And more importantly, why did it sound like he wasn't just saying it to be nice? Liam sat on the cold pavement long after Elon had left, staring at his crumpled drawing. The conversation replayed in his mind like a broken record. "You're wrong, and I'm going to prove it." What did he mean? Was he just saying that to make Liam feel better? Rich people did that sometimes. They drop a few kind words before walking away, leaving nothing but false hope in their wake. But something about Elon's voice had been different. It wasn't empty. It wasn't just words. It felt like a promise. Still, Liam shook his head, forcing himself to push the thought away. He had learned a long time ago not to expect anything from anyone. But then, something strange happened. The next morning, as Liam curled up in his usual spot near the alleyway, he noticed something out of place. A brand new backpack rested beside him. His heart pounded. No one ever left things for him. Cautiously, he reached out and unzipped the bag. Inside, he found neatly packed supplies: fresh clothes, a warm blanket, energy bars, a bottle of water. But that wasn't what made his breath hitch. Tucked inside the bag was a sleek, silver envelope. His fingers trembled as he opened it. Inside was a train ticket. Destination: SpaceX headquarters, Hawthorne, California. Liam's mind spun. What was this? His pulse quickened as he pulled out a small, folded note tucked beside the ticket. It was handwritten. "A dream only dies if you let it. Come find me. Elon." Liam's chest tightened. He read the words over and over, barely able to believe they were real. Why would a man like Elon Musk send a homeless kid a ticket to California? Was this a joke? A mistake? But deep down, something told him it wasn't. For the first time in years, hope flickered inside him. Liam stepped off the train 3 days later, exhausted, anxious, and completely overwhelmed. The moment he arrived at the sleek, futuristic entrance of SpaceX, he felt like he had stepped into another world. Massive rockets loomed in the distance. Engineers in blue jumpsuits rushed past, their hands full of blueprints and models. The energy in the air was electric. A security guard approached him. Liam hesitated, gripping the straps of his backpack, expecting to be told to leave. But before he could speak, the guard gave him a knowing look. "Liam?" Liam nodded cautiously. The man smiled. "Follow me." Liam swallowed hard as he was led through glass-walled corridors, past workstations filled with equations and 3D models of rockets. It felt surreal, like he had stepped into the future. Finally, the guard stopped in front of a large conference room. The door was slightly open. Inside, Standing at the head of a long table was Elon. He looked up, smiled, and gestured for Liam to enter. "You made it!" Liam hesitated before stepping inside. His pulse thundered in his ears. What was happening? Elon gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit." Liam did, barely able to breathe. Then Elon slid something across the table. Liam looked down and nearly choked on his breath. It was a scholarship form. At the top, in bold letters, was the name of one of the most prestigious aerospace training programs in the country. Liam's fingers shook as he flipped through the pages. His name was already printed on them. Tuition covered. Housing covered. Stipend for living expenses covered. Everything. Liam looked up, his throat tightening. "I don't understand." Elon leaned forward, his expression serious but kind. "I meant what I said, Liam. Your dream doesn't have to die. You have talent, intelligence, and most importantly, you have the hunger to do something great. I'm giving you a chance." Liam felt his vision blur. His whole life, he had been told he was nothing, that he was just another kid who wouldn't make it. And now, sitting in front of one of the most powerful men in the world, he was being told the exact opposite. His fingers clutched the edges of the papers, his heart racing. For the first time in years, his dream felt real again. Liam sat frozen, his hands gripping the edges of the scholarship papers as if they might disappear if he let go. His mind raced, trying to make sense of what was happening. This had to be a dream. I don't deserve this," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "I'm just a homeless kid. I don't even have a high school diploma. How can I?" Elon leaned forward, his expression unreadable. Then, in a voice softer than before, he said something that made Liam's breath hitch. "Neither did I." Liam blinked. "What?" Elon exhaled and leaned back in his chair. "People like to forget where I came from. They see the billions, the rockets, the success, but they don't see the struggle." He glanced out the window, as if looking at something far beyond the horizon. "When I was your age, I was sleeping on a couch in a tiny apartment. I had no money, no family to support me. I showered at a YMCA and lived off $1 a day, eating hot dogs because they were the cheapest thing I could afford." Liam's heart pounded. He had heard stories about Elon's early struggles before, but hearing it like this, directly from the man himself, made it feel real. "People told me I was crazy," Elon continued, "that I'd never make it, that I should give up. Sound familiar?" Liam nodded slowly, his throat tightening. Elon's eyes locked onto his. "But do you know what kept me going?" Liam swallowed. "What?" A small, almost nostalgic smile crossed Elon's face. "A dream. The belief that I was meant for something more. That I wasn't just another nameless kid struggling to survive. I was someone who could change the world." He paused, letting the words settle. Then he tapped the scholarship papers in front of Liam. "And I see that same fire in you." Liam's hands trembled. He felt an overwhelming wave of emotions: disbelief, gratitude, fear, hope. "But what if I fail?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Elon's expression softened. "Then you get back up and try again." Liam clenched his jaw, his vision blurring with unshed tears. No one had ever believed in him before. No one had ever told him he could be something. And now, one of the most powerful men in the world, the man behind Tesla, SpaceX, and some of the greatest technological advancements in history, was telling him he wasn't just worth something, he was worth everything. Liam squeezed his eyes shut, trying to stop the tears from falling. But it was too late. A single tear slipped down his cheek. For the first time in his life, he felt seen. For the first time in his life, he believed. Liam sat frozen, his hands gripping the edges of the scholarship papers, as if they might disappear if he let go. His mind raced, trying to make sense of what was happening. This had to be a dream. I don't deserve this," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "I'm just a homeless kid. I don't even have a high school diploma. How can I?" Elon leaned forward, his expression unreadable. Then, in a voice softened before, he said something that made Liam's breath hitch. "Neither did I." Liam blinked. "What?" Elon exhaled and leaned back in his chair. "People like to forget where I came from. They see the billions, the rockets, the success, but they don't see the struggle. He glanced out the window, as if looking at something far beyond the horizon. When I was your age, I was sleeping on a couch in a tiny apartment. I had no money, no family to support me. I showered at a YMCA and lived off $1 a day, eating hot dogs because they were the cheapest thing I could afford. Liam's heart pounded. He had heard stories about Elon's early struggles before, but hearing it like this, directly from the man himself, made it feel real. People told me I was crazy, Elon continued, that I'd never make it, that I should give up. Sound familiar? Liam nodded slowly, his throat tightening. Elon's eyes locked onto his. But do you know what kept me going? Liam swallowed. What? A small, almost nostalgic smile crossed Elon's face. A dream. The belief that I was meant for something more. That I wasn't just another nameless kid struggling to survive. I was someone who could change the world. He paused, letting the words settle. Then he tapped the scholarship papers in front of Liam. And I see that same fire in you. Liam's hands trembled. He felt an overwhelming wave of emotions. Disbelief, gratitude, fear, hope. But what if I fail? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Elon's expression softened. Then you get back up and try again. Liam clenched his jaw, his vision blurring with unshed tears. No one had ever believed in him before. No one had ever told him he could be something. And now, one of the most powerful men in the world, the man behind Tesla's SpaceX and some of the greatest technological advancements in history, was telling him he wasn't just worth something, he was worth everything. Liam squeezed his eyes shut, trying to stop the tears from falling. But it was too late. A single tear slipped down his cheek. For the first time in his life, he felt seen. For the first time in his life, he believed. 1 year later, the auditorium buzzed with excitement. Cameras flashed, reporters whispered to one another, and a massive banner hung above the stage. Future Innovators Scholarship Program. Keynote speaker, Liam Carter. Liam stood behind the curtain, adjusting his tie nervously. He still wasn't used to wearing suits or standing in front of crowds. A year ago, he was just another homeless kid on the streets, searching for scraps and avoiding the cold. But today, he was a freshman at one of the top engineering schools in the country. Today, he was standing on a stage, about to share his story with hundreds of young dreamers. Kids who, just like him, had been told they weren't good enough. A voice whispered beside him. Nervous? Liam turned to see Elon Musk, dressed in his usual black blazer, standing with his hands in his pockets. His presence was still as powerful as ever, but his eyes held something warmer, a quiet pride. Liam chuckled. A little. Elon smirked. Good. That means you care. Liam exhaled deeply, his heart pounding. I don't know if I'm ready. Elon's gaze held steady. You were ready the moment you decided to believe in yourself. The words hit deep. Liam felt a surge of confidence he hadn't known before. The announcer's voice echoed through the hall. Please welcome our keynote speaker, Liam Carter. The crowd erupted into applause. Liam stepped onto the stage, blinking against the bright lights. He took a deep breath, scanning the faces of students, teachers, and aspiring innovators. Then he spoke. A year ago, I was sleeping on a bench outside a coffee shop, wondering if I'd ever matter to anyone. His voice was steady, filled with conviction. I thought dreams were for other people, the lucky ones, not for kids like me. The room fell silent, hanging on to his every word. But one person, one moment of kindness, changed everything. He glanced at Elon, who gave him a small nod. I learned that dreams don't belong to the rich or the privileged or the people who have it easy. They belong to anyone brave enough to believe in them. A few people in the audience wiped their eyes. And if there's one thing I know for sure, it's this. No matter where you come from, no matter how many times life knocks you down, you are not a lost cause. You are a future waiting to happen. The audience erupted into applause, some standing, some cheering. Liam smiled. For the first time in his life, he wasn't just surviving, he was living, and it was only the beginning.